Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And it's like cold in my room, so I had to put on my hoodie to keep myself warm. And I want to talk about psychic protection only because I'm still mad at she's like a free client that I interact with in my community. She works at a crystal store and she tells me these stories of like astral attacks, psychic attacks from various unknown people in the physical, but who seem to be always bothering her in their astral forms, you know, or once there was like some crazy person who came into the shop and bothered her as well. Anyway, so she always is having psychics, energy workers work on her, come over to the crystal rock shop and work on that, and whatever. And, you know, and so today I just had to tell her, you know what, lay off the alcohol. Like, when you're doing like high spiritual meditation, sacred geometry, Merkaba work, you can't be drinking. you know, if you're truly, her introduction into New Age spirituality was singing light codes. And so she found out she could channel the language of light and sing the language of light. And she felt really empowered that way. And then after that, she fell into darkness. The universe bitch slapped her. Once you've had a taste of the light, uh, you then have to. The pendulum swings both ways. If you go up, you go down. If you go left, you go right. And we're always moving, we're always recalibrating moment to moment. And so there's a lot of self mastery that needs to go on. And in the West, Western society had religion that is a spiritual bypassing to begin with. Jesus dying for your own sins. This might be a triggering conversation for you. That was Jesus trying to spiritually bypass for everyone. You can all go to heaven. I've died for your sins. You're all good. Keep sinning. Just say you're sorry. Don't really change. Don't really clean up the planet. Don't really take care of your body. Don't really take care of each other and watch the whole planet go down. Yeah. So we saw that the crucifixion didn't work, and that's a huge spiritual bypassing. So basically, religion, following rules. Let's follow all these rules, not be authentic, not choose for ourselves, and we're going to get to the promised land. We're going to make it to heaven and whatever. That's spiritual bypassing. And so religion on one level says, let's spiritual bypass. Um, Going to a psychic, going to a channeler, you're going to someone who is spiritually advanced for information, and you're not growing, you're not creating those connections yourself to talk to your own angel, to talk to your own goddess, when you're not doing the work to purify yourself, like live in the world but not of it, when you're just living in the world and then going to pay someone who is not of it, you're kind of spiritually bypassing. You're not really, whatever level of the game of life you're playing in, you need to be working towards a greater good for yourself, for others, for the world. So anyways, enough lecturing on spiritual bypassing and how we get ourselves into hot water, which then makes me make another video, and fills people's pockets full of magical placebo effect magic to save yourself from your own psychology, from your own stupidity. And, you know, here we are. Here I am making this video. So I feel like she could have avoided all this with step one, uh, ascend. Ascension work, it doesn't matter what type of spiritual path you're on, you move through the chakra systems. You move through tribal consciousness, follower, being a drone, working but not really knowing why, taking orders from uh, the community but not thinking for yourself. So when you're following like recipe magic, when you're following someone else's advice and you're believing it and you're not thinking for yourself, you're at tribal consciousness. And so having some self-awareness, having some self-reflection starts the ascension process. Leveling up, glow up, don't settle. These are all kind of more modern terms for you ascend. Uh, so ascension magic has been taught since the dawn of time and has been handed down through the mystery schools. And the most famous mystery school, the Egyptian mystery school, which is basically the headquarters of Western magic. So whether you're moving through the tree of life doing the path working or the chakra system straight up the center, kundalini, yoga, these are all forms of ascension. But basically anytime you want to tune in to a higher power, whether it's working with a god or a goddess or an angel, whatever that is for you, something more enlightened, in a weird way, you have to go through a purification. You have to, you be at a certain stage, you've opted out of in the world. Now you might be in the world, but not of it. So you become a specialized instrument for the divine. So that usually requires a diet change, a lifestyle change. And you have to work out your inner psychology. You have to realize, okay, I need to work on my inner child stuff. And, your shadow material. So in psychology, becoming an individuation, really becoming uniquely you and having a new value system based upon that, not upon what you experience, not upon the imprints of your family and the world you're living on and the time period. When you really do some soul searching, get to know yourself, befriend yourself, really understand also how you think and what triggers you, uh, what is motivating all your desires, which I actually call uh, the false light. It looks beautiful, it shines, it glimmers. We it's like this is unreachable ideal uh, that we give ourselves. It's a false light and it's based upon the void. It's based upon the darkness in you, and it's the polar opposite of that. But it's also something you don't have. So it's a false light. Being beautiful to win lovers, being so smart you save the world. You're like being a savior complex, God complex, always wanting to be a supermodel and not taking into account that you're only 5'9" and you don't got the genetics for it. Aging happens. For you to hold on to that glimmering artificial light, that glow, to live the lie, it's misdirecting you. It's a false light in the dark. And that darkness is, your shadow material. So you have to confront yourself. So in the art of war, you really quickly realize your enemy is yourself. So the more you really know how you think, then you can compare that differently to how someone else thinks. And then you can appreciate those differences. Because most people just don't know how they think and then just assume whatever about the other person, and really they're just kind of outwitting themselves. and they're not really understanding this other thing called someone else with a different mind and a different culture with different needs. When you really know you, you understand when you're projecting onto your opponent what's mine, what's yours, and what do I need to behaviorally do different. So in this situation, my instinct says, you know, go crawl in that ditch, hide, then crawl up that tree and shoot from there. Okay, now I need to actually do something that I wouldn't do. Instead, stand up, walk through the field, choose that unpredictable path, and don't shoot. And that might be your path to freedom. So, understanding yourself very, very well naturally raises your consciousness. So, it starts the ascension. So, in reality, you may have some encounters with a higher powerful being. A god or a goddess might shine their light down on you. You might get a little protection, a little wisdom. But have you noticed that you might have to do a ritual for that? You might have to pray. And then, so you have to like put yourself in a position where you're aligned with that power. It's not a 24-hour stream. You don't get their full attention. And you can't always be reliant on the deities and the angels and the spirits to help you. The ultimate goal is to help yourself. That's the so in a weird way, it's almost like an apology to pray. It's like an apology to have to do a ritual to gain their favor. The reality is you should be working on yourself, glowing up, that you stand out and you catch their attention. They are attracted to you and what's going on in your energy. Like, okay, what's going on with this earthling that, there's some really cool vibes going on. I'm curious, or I am now wanting to visit them. So you should be able to attract spiritual assistance. So, for psychic protection, self-care is really important. So, I wanted to just say 4 things that were like required for psychic protection, but we already just kind of dived right in and we see that everything is interconnected, you know? So, just first on my list is self-care. Diet. I had to tell my friend to stop drinking. My other friend, who's always under psychic attack, she's always taking spiritual plant medicines and has really adopted that for a path of exploration. Hey, that's great. But you know what? Come back to earth, take care of your body, and realize the body has needs of its own that have nothing to do with you. Aging happens, your thyroid, your endocrine system, it does things. Midlife crisis is the change in hormones. Seems like everyone is having a spiritual crisis, and really they just need to go to the doctor. And that's meant to be a little bit of humor there. But diet, exercise, your environment, check to see if you have like black mold growing in the ceiling, or if there's something toxic that you can't physically see. Don't just assume that all your problems are energetic, you know? So, like, let's be practical here. Go get a doctor's checkup. I told her, I was like, you know what? You should probably see a doctor. When's the last time you've had a physical? You know? Oh, well, I'm not going to go to the doctor because then I have to tell him I drink all the time. Or, so I feel like a lot of people feel ashamed and embarrassed during their personal life issues or their lifestyle or whatever it is. You got to put your insecurities to the side. Because what you're suffering might be a vitamin B deficiency, or that's a real thing. If you don't have just some of those basic vitamins, you're throwing your body's chemistry off. It's not working optimally. Like, you can't expect, like, we're on a timeline here. So, okay. So I feel like I really preached that one. And the other thing is, it seems like every time someone is having a spiritual crisis slash, psychic attack, magical attack, attracting, no, you fell off the path. It's because you don't have a purpose. And so I'm like, why isn't this happening to me? I'm like, well, my life purpose isn't to commingle with everyone I see. My life purpose isn't to be with my soulmate and live happily ever after, hence, then searching through a crowd of people, whether subconsciously in the astral plane, looking for the one. It's like, oh, well, I've been on this spiritual investigation of psychic and magical abilities my whole life. And every little win from the higher powers and spirit world just motivates me more to stay on the path. So I'm not like deviating a lot from my spiritual path. And it seems like every time I have deviated, it was actually something physical that knocked me down. Like when I got COVID, that physically knocked me down. And I ended up having a pretty bad case of it uh, the second round of COVID. And I don't feel like I ever got back up. And then because I couldn't get back up because I was working full time at a crazy retail grocery environment, that the energy didn't support me for my healing. So it was really a lot of physical factors that then left me vulnerable to have intrusions of a psychic nature. No matter how mystical and fantastical these intrusions were, bottom line, I could have taken care of it if home base was taken care of. It's like I should have had my house, energy set. I should have quit when I was facing burnout and had a little R&R. I should have took time off, to really recuperate. I should have there's so many things I should have done. And number one, as I really should have reached out to friends and family to support me getting back up, getting back into physical fitness, getting back. Instead, I did everything backwards. I didn't do anything that I knew better. So, when you're not listening to yourself, you're going to fall off the path and get into hot water. And it's like, there must be a lesson here for you, right? In all this chaos and all this drama. And it's like, oh, the lesson is, it's life's going to suck harder and harder till I get back on the path, till I realign, till I start eating right, till I quit that job, choose something better for me. God forbid, do something for me. So then there's that inner work. Are you a people pleaser? Are you an overgiver? Well, you're basically just opening up the door and asking for that. You're handing the vampire a straw and saying, suck me, when you're energetically over advertising for the unwanted effects. So, uh, so the psychology is really important. Understand, maybe you never got the approval from parents, and so you were an overgiver, overachiever, over advertising your energy. Maybe you feel powerless and you don't believe in yourself, so once again you're overextending yourself. you know um, Maybe you're not really clear on your values. You should have boundaries, firm ones, but because there's a fear of loss of love, a fear of loss of security, that could be maintaining a job, maintaining friends, maintaining social status or image, you sacrifice that. And then you've opened the door to a psychic attack. You knew you shouldn't have been nice to that lady, but you chose to be a people pleaser and you're nice, and now you're having a magical war, you know? So who knows? So a lot of it has to do with a lot of practical things. Know yourself. Okay. And then taking responsibility. Own the situation that you're in. Like, I think a lot of people, in a sick way, get off by telling everyone, oh, I'm in another magical psychic attack, and I had to use my powers to protect myself, or I had to call my friend and she's so good. And there's this like whole magical fantasy life going on that's like not real. Bring it down to earth, pay your bills, go exercise. Did you call your kid lately? How about forgive your ex-husband? Are you a decent human being? Are you pulling your weight in the community? Besides, you know, having responsibility for yourself, there's actually a responsibility as a member of the human race. You should be pulling a little bit of that weight. And if we were all pulling that weight, we would all evolve faster. So yeah, it's good. Work on you. But there has to be some type of equal exchange in the world at large. You have to, even if it's on the smallest level, you know, choosing to showcase your positive qualities out in the world, that is pushing humanity forward. But if you're wrapped up in your story and your drama, you're not really doing that. When you're focusing on these negative things, you're not showing up as the greatest version of yourself. You're actually subtracting. You didn't give anything to someone else, you gave them your crazy story, no matter how real you think it is. So, anyways, let's look at yourself, look at your situation as a scientific experiment, you know or as a scientist, which includes counseling, psychology, which also includes technology. There's a part that has to kind of like step out of the story and examine it. When we look at some of the simple negative spells people do, flip powders, all sorts of stuff, certain rituals, examine it and go, am I just being a victim of psychology here? You know, um, and you might find that, oh, could have been something very simple. But I basically had a flat out ask her. I go, do you live in a universe that's evil? Do you really believe in evil? Like, let me know what type of mind I'm working with, because there's no way I can convince you there's no such thing as evil if you honestly somehow subscribe to that as a child. um, Maybe you witness your parents freaking out about magical warfare or voodoo hexes. Maybe there's always been some unseen force causing problems in someone's life. And so you imprinted on that heavily, and now you believe in some force that has a power to harm you. So it's like, choose the script you want to live in. So I personally believe that the universe is good, and it's always serving me and always asking me to learn a lesson and evolve as part of the ascension path. So if I find myself in a negative position like that, I go, what is the lesson for me? Oh, I need to be more grounded and be more active in the 3D world. I haven't been. I've been living 90% in the spirit world. So I deserve that. And the universe is asking me to balance. So it might be a hard slap across the face. It might bruise my pride and ego to have to come all the way back to my physical body as agreed and take care of it. Oh, and give a little light to the planet as I was assigned to. So rewrite your myth, rewrite the rules of reality. So, and that's not my problem anyways. So I was just using that as an example. But I find that when people get too far into the spirit world. Like they're making their everyday reality law of attraction. They're making their everyday reality uh, being of spiritual service. I find that the universe slaps them hard, and it's because they're not being human. They're not enjoying being alive. And so the universe wants balance. It's only going for balance. So, anyways, let's see. So, we talked about responsibility, ownership, psychology, science, investigate, play, take risks is definitely part of it as well. I always look at everything as an experiment, and that allows me not to like grasp so hard and get too linear about it. I go, well, let me try this crystal. Let me try this prayer. Let me try this, and I like to just, and so for me, it kind of turned it into a game. I go, wow, I learned that selenite pretty much does everything that you'd ever need a crystal to do. It's like, it's a wonder. It's like I have tons of it around me. I'm like, if I'm ever in trouble, fall off the path, I'll just grab some selenite, hold on for dear life, and go, oh, ouch, and oh, okay, over that. Then journal, you know? So journaling is really powerful. It helps you connect the mind, body, spirit. It helps you look at things. You can basically work so much stuff out through writing. But so energy work, having time for yourself, if you're busy running around with all your glorious psychic attacks and your spiritual purpose, you've abandoned yourself, which I think is the number one reason why people get psychically attacked, energetically taken advantage of, missed, discounted, seen as invisible, cut off on the freeway. It's because you're disconnecting from you. You're abandoning you. Maybe you're up in your head thinking too much. Maybe you're in the future too far. I got to get to work. Then I got to get to the grocery store after. And then I got to do this and I got to do that. And you're always like one step ahead of yourself. You're not in the present moment. You're not in your body. So, how can you have a strong aura if your own body doesn't feel good and you're now a stranger to your body? You're a stranger to your aura. You've been up singing with angels all day, doing energy attunements and energy healings. You've had your mind and your hands and your spiritual body all over the place in unsavory places. You're saving the world, but those were sick people. Where's the self-care? So you might need to challenge yourself. If you're into spiritual work as a career and a practice, you'd be like, every third session is for me, you know? So if I spent 3 hours with if I spent an hour with each client, that was 3 hours, I get 1 hour. Or now I make up the difference and I'll take 3 hours off. And then, so you might have to adjust your time for, so, but get clean, get pure. Purification is basically single-minded. Align your vibes. So yeah, we kind of talked about energetic work. Don't get too carried away with it. It's like if you're already fighting a spiritual, magical, psychic war, the more you do energy work, the more you're kind of like putting gasoline on a fire. That's why I suggest come back to earth, tone it down a bit, dim the light, kind of like, it's like bring it in to a manageable range. Don't underestimate the power of earth. I mean, it's been here forever. It's like, okay, journal, reflect, journal, spiritual. Let's see. Purpose in life. Yeah. So I guess in the end, it's kind of like sometimes we hyper focus on like an individual, but it doesn't really matter who it is or what the circumstance is. Um, Are you living your best life? And are you willing to let go of the fight? So you might stay in the fight because your own pride, spiritual pride is a thing. They shouldn't be able to do this. Me, I talk to Isis and I talk to Archangel Michael and I'm a psychic and I've helped all these people. So I can't not be defeated by this crazy old man down the street who uh maybe the best thing to do to win is to let go. Shut the door. Hermetically seal yourself off. So I usually just distance myself, and usually I'm looking for those red flags. Like I've watched all these dating videos, really crushing hard on my soulmate, and it was a huge wake up call. Is my life worth jumping into? No. Um, am I actually good at relationships? No. I kind of missed the boat. And so all this relationship advice I apply to my job. Are there red flags at my job? Do I need to divorce my job? Are there red flags with family members? Do I need to divorce them? Do I need to separate? So I start really looking for red flags. So, yes.